Hi, episode
Hello.
53.
Hi.
Good morning, good
How's it
afternoon,
going?
good evening.
Yeah.
Great. Feeling good. Sun is shining. Going to Mexico tomorrow. Life's good.
Yeah. It's mainly the Mexico, but a little bit of the sun shining. But that's good. That's
Yeah,
good.
work is great.
Deserved,
Yeah,
needed.
feeling good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, so episode 53. Super excited to dig in, talk about all the
I got a lot
things,
to say.
culture, marketing, trends. Things are happening. We're going to try a little different. So we'll see if it's a complete shit show or we'll see if my IT brain is going to work today. But I'm going to try to share some images as we're talking about it and we'll see how it goes.
All right.
How are you doing?
Excellent. No more stomach flu in this house. So that feels like, a new day, a new dawn. Like
That's a win.
I'll take it. Yeah. I'm here for the conversation. I have a few things to share that you probably don't have images ready for, so we can tack them on at the end. See how we
Great.
do on the fly. But yeah, my brain's been buzzing today, so I've got
I love it. Yes.
yeah.
Only
Let's
Tuesday.
talk.
We're killing it this week. Okay. All right. So episode 53. Pamela Anderson is a masterclass. Rebranding. We'll get to that. Silvers are sporty. Super Bowl, perimenopause, retreats. So much to talk about. But we're going to go in order. We're going to try to be as organized as possible. Okay. So culture. Call if canceled.
Yes. How
You want,
funny.
yeah. Amazing. Amazing. You want to give a bit of an overview? I didn't know this before.
Yeah. So, of course, I found this on As Seen On. So if you're not a paid subscriber, get yourself a paid subscription. I'll link to it again in the show notes, which are really not show notes in a whole email, but we'll call them show notes. But yeah, I thought this was really interesting. So essentially there's an insurance company now that is offering insurance against getting canceled, which, obviously feels like every 5 minutes there's somebody in crisis, right? Whether it's Blake or Kendrick and like that whole vibe, like who knows? Like that's I wouldn't say they're getting canceled, they're just beefing. But like, there's somebody always in the depths of despair. And so there's obviously like a need for this, but one of the things that I was asking myself is like, is that very 2024? Because I'm not feeling like we're moving into the age of canceled. Like I feel like we're moving out of the age of canceled, where basically like the Band-Aid or whatever we're calling it of life is off. And like you can be, for better or for worse, let me tell you, whoever you want to be right now. Like even some of the things that I'm talking about later in the culture letter in this particular one, like, there's this woman, Candace Owens, I think. And, like she is not my cup of tea, certainly, but somebody who is surging in popularity. But I feel like many of her views, her perspectives would have gotten her canceled had she not waited for this moment to
Sure.
even in the last year. So like, it's just, I think we're in a time right now where I feel like there's really not much you can say that would get you canceled. So
Right.
that just feels like funny
So
timing.
we're canceling
but,
cancel culture.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but again, this is not a podcast about, like popular culture, but like in pop culture. But like, like the whole like Blake saga, like for me, like, like shaming women, doing all this stuff, like that's like probably never going to be that popular with a group of people. But
I hope not.
meanwhile, there's probably a group of people that it's extremely popular with. So like, again, like I think you basically are entering an age where you can find the audience you want, and it doesn't matter if you're canceled with one audience because there's likely the other audience who is like here for whatever you're saying,
Yeah. And I feel like the pendulum swing there's extremities on both ends of the pendulum swing. And the cancel, like, is we're pushing the limits, and pushing the boundaries, which I think in certain ways is amazing. And I'm 100% here for. And in other ways is concerning. All right. Moving on to something fun. Food and beverage.
Tell me.
There's so much I want to dig into. The Insta IP campaign I thought was really interesting. The InstaCart did.
Yeah. Okay. What do you want to know about it? Should I just give an overview on what it is? I
Yeah,
saw
I think just
something
give an overview.
hysterical today about it.
I'm gonna try to share this one. So let's see how this goes.
This is so technical. Okay, so basically, to give you an overview on it, InstaCart, not Instagram, InstaCart came out with and this is, like a pre-Super Bowl spot. So, like, are they going to do more with this for Super Bowl? Maybe. Essentially, like, you're in this kind of city, and it's very kind of, there's all of these mascots, and they're giant. Wow.
Hold on. Okay. Technical, we're working through it. Keep going, Chris.
I don't know if everyone got to hear that or not, but anywho, I can also link to it in the show notes. But so Instacart came out with this ad, and so in it, there's like all of these mascots, and they're oversized, they're giant, think Godzilla size. And they're coming through the city, and it's the Jolly Green Giant, and it's like the Jolly Ranchers guy, and like, all of the Cheetos person, Tiger person,
Kool-Aid
there's
guy.
all the Kool-Aid guy, like all of them.
Energizer bunnies. All the people came. All the people came.
And so it's so interesting to me because, like, when I first saw it, I was like, so clever. Like, I'm kind of into it, right? And then my second thought, the second it gets to the end of the spot where they put the bag down and then everything is in it and it becomes real, I was like, these aren't the brands that people are excited and energized and, like, beloving right now. Like, these are brands that maybe were ubiquitous for a really long time and very, very big brands, but they haven't really, like, maintained their popularity and, like, the integrity, maybe is the word I would look for, like, with popular culture. Like, people aren't necessarily looking at these brands right now, like, the Kool-Aid guy, like, Kool-Aid is full of red dye, and, like, Jolly Rancher, like, probably doesn't have the best, like, the Green Giant probably doesn't
Jolly
have
Green
the
Giant.
best,
Yep.
Jolly Green Giant doesn't have the best farming practices, all of these things. And I was like, is this a villain movie instead of a hero's movie? And it felt like whoa. But then today, and I will share this in the show notes, Michael Abada, who writes a lot about retail.
I love Michael. Yeah.
Michael's amazing. Like, follow him if you want to, like, see retail trends, and he's really great on LinkedIn. He posted the most hysterical thing today where it was like, hey, has anyone seen this spot that was done in 2000? And it is exactly the same spot. And it was like, and he asked very funnily, do you think the creative team knows about it? And then Piers Morgan at PSFK goes, no, but AI did, because AI made it. And I laughed very hard. So yeah, I think it's just like that made, like, obviously I think that narrative is going to come out louder, and, like, that is a difficult thing to combat right now when it's like, hey, like, you basically knocked off somebody's ad from 20 years ago, like, without referencing it, unless they're about to reference it in the Super Bowl. But if you are deliberately referencing it, then you need to kind of bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I haven't seen the knockoff ad, or the ad that they knocked off, or supposedly knocked off, yet. But that is fascinating. I feel like just looking at it, it feels like, you can see kind of being in that room where the idea is being pitched. Some creators got this great idea. I think it's not, something like this has been done before. I'm sure the ad prior wasn't the first time it's been done. Let's take all the brands, let's do something, which in one side is a cool idea. Like, I can see creators getting excited about that. But on the other side, and to your point, there is literally no cultural relevancy and no, like, insight of how that's going to lead to people connecting more with Instacart and then ultimately shopping more. You're not going to see the brands and be like, yes, I'm going to get Hudson some Kool-Aid because that's what he needs, is red dye and more sugar. So I think that's really interesting. I think you can just see it happening in the pitch room, right? Of, like, this idea, but the insight just wasn't there.
Yeah, your light just turned off, so you might want to fix that.
Yeah.
But it, yeah, I mean, I think that it's, yeah, that's exactly how I felt about it. Like, my first reaction was like, oh, this is rad, like, so interesting, like, how fun. And then it was like the dawn coming, and I was like, oh. And it always hurts me when I see like what is a lot of effort, because you know what, like every single person who was on that team worked really, really, really hard on that ad, and they should feel really proud of it. Like, the ad quality is great, like it's fun, it's entertaining, but it's, it's yeah, I think the disconnect obviously happens earlier in that process. So it's not in the people who like finally like execute on the ad, but in the kind of the creative development like prior. And I think there was a real disconnect in the strategy there. Yeah, like I felt like, of course, my example is always and will always probably be Fishwife right now. But like, I was like, wouldn't it have been amazing if they'd had the Fishwife like fish? And like, there's just so many cool brands, and it's like you can get those on Instacart because I order them for people, because I now use, since the death of my favorite place. Who shall not be named.
Sorry, rest in peace. Well, it's back, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, I use them for gifts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think where you're going is exactly that. And we know this because it's inside and we do so much of this. But this to me is a creative idea that was taken, and a cool creative idea, but without a strategy and the insights. And you got to put those two things together. Like, take the idea, let's create this big brands, let's do all of this, but then take the insight and make them relevant brands that people are thinking about, that people aspire to, that are in culture right now, and connect those. And then I think you create an ad like this that is interesting, compelling, people want to see it, but then there's also that connection piece.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, like, I think that would have been a great way to like kind of even bring in these small brands, and maybe you wouldn't have known what they are, and like the big brands could have like lifted them up and been like, you're with us, like come with us. Or like, I think there could have been a really powerful way of doing that would have been like a yes. And it just feels like it was like real miss.
Brands lifting brands up. I love that. And all I can see in my head is the Fishwife swimming, which would be rad. All right. We got lots to cover.
Okay, we'll move on.
Oh, gee. I just, aesthetically, we just have to dig in. We don't need to spend a long time on it, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah. The Kellogg ad is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Also part of Food and Bev. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's really well done. Like, it's just visually well executed. So, like, props to whoever did that. I did see today.
Leo Burnett, UK, yeah.
I did see today somebody posted that Surreal, and I'm not even sure if so Surreal is another cereal brand, but like kind of a low sugar, high protein brand. And they're very funny on LinkedIn. So if you're not following Surreal, like absolutely follow Surreal on LinkedIn. Hysterical. Best brand account on LinkedIn that I know of. But I don't know if it was a rendering or if they really put the ad out, but they took it and they kind of morphed the ad so that the O is really big, so it looks like a 0, and the G is small. And it says 0 grams then, and it says, meet you at the gym with Surreal. So anyway, like, that's hysterical. But like the whole, like the ad is really clean, the OG thing, like, I think it's smart. I hope that they kind of, again, I think it's it's a similar thing to the Instacart thing, right? Like, if somebody's in the room telling them that, hey, cereal's not like so hot right now, like, you guys have no protein, you're full of sugar, and this is kind of the thing, and like, you want to be the OG of something, that should be a good thing, right? And so, like, are you about to come out with some new revelation or new product or whatever? Maybe this is a longer part of the story, and I'm hoping it is, because otherwise I think it just is a really beautiful ad, but it doesn't really connect with where consumers are at with this particular product. Like, it's not beloved right now. So it's getting a lot of love from like the brand creatives, and people are being like, oh, I can't believe you managed to sell this in and actually execute it on it. And it's really beautiful. And I agree. But do audiences really Or like, are they like, oh yeah, OG cereal? Like like I think that there is like, there's the whole OG soda movement, right? With people moving away from probiotic soda back to real soda, and they're just saying, hey, I'm going to have real soda, but less of
Mm-hmm.
it. Are you now positioning your cereal in such a way that you're saying, hey, like it might not be an everyday breakfast food, but it's a breakfast food you're going to have on the weekend because it feels really good and it tastes really good and I just love it? Like, what is the story that makes this a good thing? Is the question
Yeah,
I
I
have.
mean, I think they're taking the cereal as it is. I think Kellogg's is one of the oldest cereals. I think it is what it is. I think it's not about creating the protein Kellogg's or whatever it may be. They're cornflakes. They don't have sugar on them. They're flakes of corn. And I think it's like taking that. I mean, that's all it is. Like we've got frosted flakes, we got honey nut, we got, the mix in this house. But flakes of corn, they're not that interesting. They're, and in my opinion, not that delicious. But I think this campaign did a great job of taking something that is just maybe standard, maybe iconic, maybe, it's been around for a minute and trying its best to really highlight it in the most iconic way. And I think it did a
Yes,
great job just doing that. But
that I
maybe it'll
agree
be
with. That
protein
I
cornflakes or maybe in the mix. All right. Drugs and booze. We have to talk about this. And I'm going to do my best to share without freaking out everybody with the sound and all the things.
we're really like entering new technical know-how, but essentially Hims and Hers. So, Hims and Hers were originally known as kind of like erectile dysfunction or like hair loss drugs. Very like blanded aesthetic from what like my opinion of like, when that was popular of like blanding. And then they recently got into GLP-1s, which is extremely smart, right? Like generic GLP-1s, and they've had a huge business around this. And they released this ad. I don't know if it's for Super Bowl. I'm guessing it's for Super Bowl. Let's not even worry about this like video showing thing. We'll figure this out on the next one. But what I thought about this video was like, I was like, whoa, like this is like it's dark. It's really dark, this video. It's very post-apocalyptic, like a lot of shots put together and like a lot of like, chaos. It feels like, like 90s like anti-drug ads, like where it's like every single image and it's like, this is America on top of it with Childish Gambino like singing on top, and I was just like, whoa, like, and then it's like, and then it ends with like Hims and Hers, like the generic photo of the people, like, or video of these people, and they're like, we're here for the future of like, weight loss, da 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 da. I just didn't even know where to begin. Like, I was gobsmacked.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think for so many reasons, and I don't think we have time to dissect them all, but I think to your point, Hims and Hers I thought it started as a vitamin brand. Like it was just kind of a very friendly, but like more interesting kind of package, more thoughtful, or felt like more targeted.
It was
To
always
really,
erectile dysfunction from the get, like men's erectile dysfunction, but they've expanded,
yeah,
but like it's
I guess
always
when I
been this
found it.
like bland and like very approachable brand.
Very approachable is the best word. Yeah, approachable. Like they tried to be thoughtful about design, but then to have something like this, and I think we're both. I certainly have a visceral reaction to this. A big part because I think it's leading with fear. I think it's leading with all of these terrible, like everybody's fat, everybody's obese, these terrible things are happening, and I think neither you nor I ever feel like that's personally or professionally like the way to go. And then I think it's interesting it feels like almost apocalyptic Apple and kind of where they used to kind of be in that realm and trying to like really make an impact visually and try to do that, which I don't think cinematography wise it hits that. But then like maybe 3/4 of the way into it, it almost feels like it's a different ad. And then with the Hims and Hers branding coming in to like save the day, but it doesn't feel like it answers anything in my head. Whereas it absolutely could have had it just, again, strategy and insights.
Yeah. Let's push you back so you're not banging on the counter, because I know this is an important thing, but I hear your elbow going like this. But yes, it was a yeah. I don't know, like I'm curious to see the reaction. And so my big feeling on that whole thing is that, so generic GLP-1s are likely to get banned anytime now. And so I feel like they're in this desperate land grab, like kind of like we need as many people to be getting subscriptions for as long as we can possibly exist. Because then also once they have the people and they know that that's what they're interested in and they have the data, then they can obviously target them if they are able to appeal, which they have appealed this once before and it was successful. But I think they're dealing with a really different administration.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Silver's Alphas and Z's because I want to talk about almost everything in here. It's so good. So good. And I can't, like, I know we're talking about it to the day is long, but like Pam Anderson and Martha Stewart and connecting the two of those and the Elle interview was just for me beyond, from the photography to the styling to who they chose to do the foot, like everything about it and those two icons. And it wasn't just like Martha interviewing Pam, like it was really kind of this back and forth. So I think you've written about it a bunch. I know it's been on the radar for a while. I want to talk about them all day long.
Yeah. I have followed me on LinkedIn for love on Martha Stewart and Pam Anderson because I've definitely shared them before. But yeah, I mean, so Elle also is doing some interesting things. They've also been hiring some Substack writers to write some interesting stuff. So like, I feel like they're really trying stuff.
Totally agreed. I was impressed.
Yeah, it was cool. But this, like, the styling of it, like, and I thought it was very different to the styling I shared of Jacquemus, which is like very like pared down and like just very like, you know, it's a different kind of elegant. And then here she is kind of like in a completely different kind of elegant. And like, I'm just really enjoying this whole like rebranding, repositioning that Pam Anderson is doing. And then to have Martha Stewart, who I think has gone through, like, while different strategy, a similar rebranding and repositioning story, is really like a beautiful synergy. Like there was like one person like kind of like, you know, and I don't even know if they like one another, but like their stories to me feel like parallels. And yeah, the photography is just bananas good. Like it's just so good. So yeah, maybe I'll be able to edit this video afterwards and I'll add them in and then everyone will be able to see it.
We'll show a little bit of it. Yeah, I mean, I just think it's amazing. And I think they both, in their own way, like they're taking the women's movement beyond, because I think they're two people that a lot of society kind of counted out or thought they were over, or thought it was too much, that like they were fake or whatever kind of societal dismissal, whatever reason there was. And I think they're really showing like way beyond the box of how we've tried to put women, or you could be in this box, you could be in this box, you could be in this box. And they're just saying, fuck that. And they're continuing to reinvent themselves in just the most amazing ways. So I'm here for it. All right. Yeah. Silver Bowl, as you predicted.
Yeah. I mean, I think there will be more thoughts coming on this in the next few weeks as the Super Bowl really rolls out this weekend. So I might want to like not harp on this too much. But like one of the things that I wrote about in my 2025 predictions was silver's like becoming like a thing for brands, right? And I think this is happening. One of the things that I think is, you okay? You're like click.
Oh, I'm trying to.
He's trying to do some technical things.
Different things.
Yeah, the videos are tough. So one of the things that I predicted for silvers in 2025 was that brands were going to start paying attention to them. And I think that the Super Bowl is a perfect example of how I think this is starting to go. Like, so previously, I would say that if you ever saw somebody who was over 65 in the ad, they were either extremely famous and they were kind of being brought in as like a throwback era, like very, very nostalgic, or they were being brought in as kind of a punchline and they were a joke, right?
Totally.
And in this segment or section of ads that I shared, silvers are kind of the shining star. Like they're being shown as cool, they're being shown as sexy, they're being shown as interested in sex, they're being shown as sporty, they're being shown as like having game, like being cooler than the young people. Like there is such a repositioning happening right here in these section of ads that I think is really, really critical for brands to kind of take. And I think one of the things that I think will kind of come out of this is that as we begin to collectively reposition silvers in our minds, then you begin to collectively understand where you can start targeting your brand at them. Because I think Michelob Ultra, for example, is sort of like toying with the idea that they know that they're an older brand, but that's who is buying beer right now. Like Gen Z is not buying beer. It's just, that's where it is. And I think it's very, very smart. And I think that brands are starting to start waking up.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so here for it. And I think that takes us to what Saison is doing.
Yes. So
which is
everybody's
so
favorite
good.
silvers.
They're the best.
They're so amazing. I can never remember their names. This is the story of this podcast. Chris doesn't remember anyone's names.
He and Kochi? Akai and Kochi? I'm going to butcher it, but it's so good.
But they're in like two elder silvers. Their account is run by their daughter, who is like very stylish and cool in her own right. But she kind of started like featuring her parents. That they've been in Sweetgreen ads, they've been into several ads, and they're just really rad. And Saison cast them in one of their campaigns. And I think I just think one of the things that I think has been happening for a while is that we were pulling in silvers as kind of marketing props. And now I think we're starting to understand that actually they have the ability to move the needle. And
totally.
There's a reverence for these people, for their style, for their taste, for their place in life that they're in right now. I think there's synergies between what Gen Z and millennials, for that matter, want and what silvers have.
Yeah.
Cool silvers. I think for a while it's let's have an older male in the campaign to make it edgy, and we're kids or whatever. And now I think it's saying, I think brands are actually realizing it's not just for fun. These guys sell products, friends.
100%. I think the Saison campaign nails it. I think it's aspirational. I think you see what these guys are wearing. They're adorable. They're rad. They're positive. They're you just want to be there, hang out with them. And I think the styling and their styling, I follow them. Their styling is rad. And I think you do, to your point, they're aspirational and they're actually selling it versus just checking the box. All right. Moving on to retail. One of our favorite topics. We got to talk about our buddy, Matt Klein.
All right, let's talk about Matt Klein. Well, first of all, edging as a strategy has to be my new favorite concept ever. And me explaining this to my husband the other day was absolutely my husband's a mathematician, so he's he's just has no idea what I'm talking about most of the time. So then I'm edging is as a strategy. He reads the newsletter and he's like, "Can you explain what you're talking about?"
Which I think you should, because that's not where my vocabulary or my head goes with edging. So yes, please.
Right? It's more that
it got me a look.
You're asking, essentially what he's talking about is and we should talk about his meta trends thing too, because I have thoughts on that. But in this particular thing, what he's talking about is product release strategy, right? And so he's saying hey, if you have a really successful product, so say Air Force Ones, right? And you're releasing Air Force Ones and you have them out in the market for a really, really long time, and they're growing and growing and growing in popularity, right? You're going to want to pull your product before it peaks at coolness, right? And that's hard for brands to want to do because they want to ride the wave as long as humanly possible, right? And then the wave ends.
The dollars are coming in, yeah.
Right. And this is what he's talking about with edging, is that he's you want to come up to basically this is the coolest thing ever, and then suddenly people can't get it. And then you're going to come out with another product that you're going to wait a little bit. You're going to come out with a limited edition of the product later on, we found some stock or dead stock or whatever. And you're going to bring that out, and then you're going to cut it off again. And then you're going to come back and you're going to bring it right up to the edge, and then you're going to cut it off again. And that's how you kind of like, I think I would say that Adidas has been doing this well with like these low rise shoes that they have. Like they're not necessarily sticking to like one SKU, but I feel like what they're doing with the, like they sort of like they bring in one low rise SKU, right? Like, and so it's like low profile sneaker. And then they like kind of like are pulling it, and then they're like, oh, like we'll go with the gazelle now, and then they like pull that up, and then it's like, oh, and then we're out, and then we have another one, and then it's like we're out. And there's one in the background, like being re-released, basically all the time.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, like, I fell in love with this pair, like, of gazelles the other day that I'm like, I'm going to have to own this pair of shoes. Like, and I don't really like buying sneakers that much, but like, I got to have these shoes. And like, it's just like the way they're coming out with these products, like it's exactly this.
Right. That's a great example. And the point is that, or the key to that is that you and Sailor probably want the exact same shoes. And I went to a kid thing.
Are they the leopard print ones with the red laces?
Hers are the different color ones, but I went to a, tween thing over the weekend, and all of the shoes were Adidas, and they were various gazelles. The ribbon tied, the blah, 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 the blah, blah, blah. And I think that's a perfect point. And the fact that it's generational, the fact that you want them, that as Sailor does, that tells it all.
And so I just think that is a strategy. It's not a new strategy. And he says that in the piece that I was referring to. He's like, this isn't new, but it's something that brands forget. And even Nike has forgotten it sometimes or many times. And I think it's just something that is worth remembering. Like, don't ride the wave until.
Yeah. And that takes, I think, a really forward-thinking team, really forward-thinking CEO to be able to do that versus, hey, the money's coming in, the money's coming in, the money's coming in. Let's just do that. For sure. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, yeah, you find it well. I mean, I think I shared the soapbox that I got off of yesterday as far as like, I think there's so much, and we've, I've been referencing trends since, I was in fashion. So it's definitely a relevant thing. But I think as of recently, it's really just become data dumping. And now you can find that kind of anywhere on, ChatGPT and the like. The magic, and I think this is why people really connect with good thinking so much. The magic is like, okay, what is that actually going to do for me? And it's the insights, the connecting the dots that you do so well. And then it's like, how is it actionable? Because like a bunch of data, anybody can find anywhere, but it's like, what is it actually going to do for your brand, for your company? How is it actually going to connect in the future? Yes, and hand me a lifeline. Double that. Right. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I think we've talked about this in our workshops, when we really dig in and we hear this often from clients, like, we do it so differently. Because it doesn't matter. Like, you can have your demos and everybody, I think, still references, okay, well, they're this old, they're this income. Okay, well, they're reading this. We're thoughtful on this. But I think, we talk about like, what rabbit hole are you going down on Instagram? Like, what are you actually thinking and doing, which matters so much more than just demographics. But I think people are just checking the box and saying like, well, it's demographics, but you actually don't know anything about them if it's demographics. Whereas digging in, to your point of the ingredients and longevity as we do, tells you so much more. And Martha Stewart's a perfect example of that. Not to bring it back to her, but bring it back to her. Always up for the fun. All right, moving on to sport. We got to just give a nod to this brand because it's so rad. Half days. The campaign. Yeah. That's what I call it. Yeah, let's go with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really, it's beautiful. And I think to your earlier point, I think it's about looking to sport brands because they're really doing those integrations really well and thoughtfully and really truly that 360, whereas other brands I think often fumble on that versus lifestyle particularly. Yeah, totally. 100%. Yeah. All right, moving on. We're getting tight on time. So wellness and beauty. I want to talk about both of them, but we can only do one. So tell me if you want to talk about Methylene Blue or protein. I mean, yeah, you want to... I'm taking it. Yes, I'm taking it. Yeah, I mean, you included all the research in there. It was on Huberman. I know about it from, Jenny, who Jenny knows all the things. I think the best example is the one that you use of, Jenny was talking about the microbiome, I don't know, 5-8 years ago before anybody was talking about the microbiome. Like she's always in the future of what's happening and around things. And Methylene Blue. And I think we're in a period of life being that we're perimenopause of like always looking to like, figure out like how to feel our best. And I think that's kind of a constantly changing thing in the age that we're in. So I think we're always looking for that. So she found this Methylene Blue. I have no idea how she found it, but it's in her circle and in her space of knowledge for sure. And she and her husband started taking it. And then about a couple of days later, I started taking it. And it really is, obviously, I take a lot of supplements and I take a lot of things, but how I feel is it's quite profound of the impact that it's had. Now, that said, like, go check with your doctor. It's a whole situation. She sent me a warning label that said you can't use it with like MDMA and ayahuasca or SSRIs or all of these things. So like, check out your own thing and if it's right for you. But I've known a profound impact. And I even talked to my therapist, who's also in the know of all the things and old school. And she's like, oh, yeah, I tried it years ago and it wasn't right for her. And you have to be careful of the dosage and all the things. But for me, it's made a huge impact. And I think it's something that we're going to start and hear way more about. All right, travel. Thought this was fascinating. The Canyon Ranch Empower Perimenopause Retreat. And I love Canyon Ranch, but yes, yeah. It's a full-time job, the amount of protein one needs to have. Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right. Last but not least, fun for the week. I mean, we don't have time to talk about much. I think the rackets and tennis butterballs visually were just so good. It's so cute. It's so cute. All right. Moving on. I thought what Graza did, because like, don't tell me about your rebrand or tell me about your birthday or anniversary or whatever from a brand or company standpoint. But this, I was like, cute. I'm in. The last thing I think we'll share, because it's so good as far as the Year of the Snake swag. It's so good. I'm here for Year of the Snake. Visually, all of it, like, well done. I love it. All right. Well, that was a full episode. Gonna jump to a meeting. I think we're good on time, but give us a little love in the algorithm. Share it with some people. Like it. Do all the things. Give us some feedback. Till next time.